Radio. This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Cat lovers and feline friends, it's time for Adele Park's Quirky Cat Nips.
Today on the Quirky Cat Nips podcast, we're airing a chapter of Quirky Cat Gets Ghosted, which we will do until the entire audiobook has been broadcasted. We invite all you kitties to kick back now, relax, and enjoy Quirky Cat Gets Ghosted by Adele Park.
Audio Recording St. George presents Quirky Cat Gets Ghosted. Written, produced, and edited by Adele Park. Narrated by a full cast.
A directive from Gertrude Fletcher, head of the Naval Utah Department of Motor Vehicles. Part 17.
How does an office girl turned pit boss turned FBI agent wind up at the Department of Motor Vehicles in Naval Utah? By choice, of course. People with my background have options. For many years, I exercised all of them simultaneously for maximum benefit. The time I spent working for the horse track in New Jersey was instructional. I learned to observe things most people overlook and remember details others would forget. That's what the federal government was banking on. I never had to actually snitch on anyone. I simply attended the scheduled meetings and answered questions. Things like, who was at the track? And later, who played at the high roller tables? Did anyone leave disappointed? The answer to the last question was, everyone. I don't know anyone who is so rich they actually enjoy losing money. The mob syndicate who owned the track where I worked in New Jersey and the Double Deuces Casino in Las Vegas never suspected a thing. In fact, they used me much in the same way the government did, asking many of the same questions. Never was I prompted to disclose suspicions or opinions of casino employees, even the ones who needed to be fired. I simply told both sides what I saw and collected 2 paychecks. I didn't have any moral objections with either side because my family needed the money. Papa cleared out long before I ever repaid his debt. He'd resurface from time to time, usually asking for cash. My 2 older brothers and I had established ourselves as the breadwinners for our large family. Someone always needed something, even into adulthood. I was able to help pay off the modest home Mother lived in until she died of breast cancer. Teenagers these days are so entitled. They complain about their cushy lives, not understanding how hard others have to work to buy their expensive cell phones and designer clothes. Brandon Spinkle fell into this category, despite entering the workforce at a young age. The thing that set Brandon apart was a curious mind. A good quality for someone who is a journalist. Although Brandon's sense of observation isn't nearly as keen as mine, he's beginning to piece together what happened to his stepmother, Blue McKenna. Next!
In case you haven't noticed, you've been ghosted.
Chapter 17. Brandon Spinkle.
No one calls Taj the San Francisco Meat and gets away with it. Except me. I've actually called him much worse. Scrotum Slurper, Anal Assaulter, Hickory Dickory Cock, Butthole Bandit, Manhole Muncher, Harry Poppins, and Fruit of the Loom, just to name a few. I'm not afraid to say these things to Taj's face, unlike Kiefer Nichols, the butt-fingering sack of syphilis that he is. Taj has a few choice names for me as well. Tuna Asserole, Seaman Souffle, Duncan Scronuts, Peanut Slutter and Smelly Sandwich, Flaccid Noodle Strudel. Taj never thinks about anything but food, severely limiting his creative ability. That last one really beefs up the barf factor. Flaccid noodle strudel? Only a guy who's gayer than a pair of sequined underpants would come up with something like that. My dad writes songs about Hershey holes, and even he doesn't use the word flaccid. One thing's for sure, Kiefer isn't going to get away with talking trash about Taj. Since Kiefer enjoys social media tsunamis so much, he ought to get a rain slicker for his dad, Kip the Stripper Nichols. Does Kiefer really want everyone in Naval to see footage of Kip tied up spread eagle style with his minuscule purple dong winking at two girls in do-me-hard lingerie? How did I get my paws on such a video? I found it on a VHS tape in Blue's writing nook, stashed in the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet. Taj and I took the place apart after he found that photo album with all the pics of Juniper Hollow. The tape was labeled Insurance. I don't think Blue shot the video. She was just writing about a reality TV show called Yikes. It was done at Gecko's Gulch, and somehow Moon was involved, probably because she owns the place. The show never aired, and Blue ended up writing about something else. Too bad, because there was some juicy footage of Kip looking like he just got his pecker caught in the peeper jar. He still had his shirt on, which somehow made it look even more obscene, especially since it was his cop uniform. As much as it grossed me out, I zeroed in on Kip waving his cooch cork at the two hotties in skimpy unders. If Kiefer thinks it's okay to call Taj the San Francisco Meat, then it's okay for me to reply with a video of his dad called the San Francisco Petite. Seriously, my little brother Rudy has a bigger schlong than Kiefer's dad. I couldn't bring myself to revive my Facebook account, even long enough to post something on Kiefer's page. Nothing good ever comes from Facebook. Besides, I'm not sure if I could get arrested for that, even with the family jewels blurred out. It took me almost an hour to figure out how to pixelate Kip's prick. It involved looking at his pea-sized junk way longer than any human should ever have to. I edited a 15-second clip and sent it to Kiefer along with a one-word text. Apologize. Kiefer was waiting for me outside the Naval Weekly banner when I showed up for work. That was fast. Doesn't Kiefer have a summer job he's supposed to be at? I brushed past him, just barely making it through the door on time. That's actually part of my grade, showing up on time. Kiefer followed me in. Are you here to take out a classified ad? I asked, knowing damn well he wasn't. Most of the staff were still shuffling out the door for lunch. I used to think it was kind of beneath me to cover the phones during lunch, but I actually come across a lot of tips. Some people have real jobs and can only call during their breaks. Kiefer looked nervous. Welcome to the lion's den, you fart in a can. I jumped behind the desk and answered a fake call. I took my time. When I hung up, everyone had cleared out from the reception area except Kiefer. I'm working, numbnuts, I said. If you aren't here to talk about a news item, then kick it down the road. Kiefer must have been scared because he just stood there. Jesus, Kiefer, I said. Did you see something that turned you into a mouth breather? Kiefer looked like he was about to cry. If Kiefer wasn't such a douchebagger, I might have felt sorry for him. Luckily for this scrote licker, I had work to do and didn't have time to answer fake calls all afternoon. Look, Weefer, I said, deliberately mispronouncing his name. You know what you gotta do. Texts don't count. Later, I wished I had bent him over, prison shower style, mostly because I had a really shitty afternoon. About a month ago, I called dibs on covering the end of summer sizzler they have at the Naval City pool. I'd rather hang myself by my own cock than get anywhere near that place now, especially since it's happening on the same night as Taj's concert. My editor wasn't budging. I'd taken the assignment, and that was final. I could see why they wouldn't let me cover anything with the rectal surgeons due to my obvious conflict of interest, but forcing me to go over to that pee pool and talk nice to all the chodes hassling Taj just seemed like punishment. But I'm on track for an A and don't want to screw it up, especially since I'm hoping to get a paid job at the Banner next summer. Not only is Dad about to slap everyone in Naval upside the head with songs like Release the Chocolate Hostage, he's planning to live here full-time after me and Lexi finish school in Vegas. By then, Rudy will be in kindergarten. I didn't know this until just yesterday, but Dad and Blue had been planning it all along. Fine with me. I drove home from work in a crappy mood, only to find Kiefer schlepping around audio equipment for Dad's band. Kiefer had been hired, and by that I mean actual cash payments, to help at the concert. Seriously? Am I supposed to have some kumbaya moment with this demented creep just because he did the right thing for once? Apparently, yes. I guess good help really is hard to find. Kiefer even hung around after for pizzas from Dad's brick oven. When he finally left, Taj told me Kiefer acted like he was truly sorry. I'll bet. What singed my taint was realizing Kiefer gets to work the rock show while I'm stuck covering the zit squeezers at the end of Summer Sizzler. I already knew Kiefer's dad wasn't involved with Blue's accident, or whatever you want to call it. Nice of Boyd Fletcher to wait until just a few weeks ago to tell me that dickwad Kip didn't kill her. Boyd was up feeding his cat when he heard the sound of Blue's truck smashing into the bridge at Juniper Hollow. Snoop Dogg that he is, Boyd immediately grabbed his binoculars and ran outside. That's when he saw Kip's patrol car driving to the bridge from the opposite way Blue was going. It would have been pretty hard for him to have caused Blue to crash her truck and then have time to approach the scene from the other direction. So maybe Kip isn't a killer. That doesn't mean I have to be blood brothers with his son, Kiefer the Queefer. I wouldn't be surprised to find out Kiefer is a narc, which makes me glad we're not selling weed anymore. I'm sure the shit not going to miss dealing with a-holes like Remy, the diamonds in the desert prince of penny pinching. Not gonna weep over Kaylee either, or the free sex. I heard from Kaylee's ex-roommate she got the clap. Glad my pee isn't on fire. I can't imagine having to ask my dad for some antibiotics. He'd probably make me go to a specialist who'd insist on showing him where it hurts. Not that I blame anyone for wanting to take a look inside my jeans. Taj says he's quit smoking weed for good. Turns out, my little cockadoodle-loving friend wants to be a doctor, just like my dad. Well, not exactly like my dad. Taj only likes to explore hairy butts recreationally.
Hang tight, kitties. We'll be back in a scratch. One good quirk leads to another. If you're enjoying Quirky Cat Gets Ghosted, you should pounce over to audible.com and snag yourself a download of Quirky Cat Goes Splat by Adele Park. Splat is the story of two twitchy teenagers who team up with Skitters the Cat to raise holy hell. Quirky Cat Goes Splat. It's the cat's meow. Get Splat today on audible.com.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There is no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms. And our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Lately, Dad has been acting like an actual dad. Which, in this case, means he's done raw dogging his sister-in-law. Too bad it took Taj getting Mac trucked on Facebook for Dad to notice he's totally failed as a parent. Hell, even my mom has paid more attention to us than Dad has. She's here in Naval, which I'm hating worse than homework. Mom showed up dressed like one of those starving Barbies you see in fashion shows. I was sorry to see my little sister, Lexi, is turning into Mom's mini-me. Lexi grew boobs over the summer. Taj was quick to point it out. It's okay coming from a gay guy, but if Taj noticed, that means a bunch of other salami floggers are going to be after my little sister. Now that Dad has smoothed things over with Jasper Stratton and the butt rustlers at Juniper Hollow, I'm going to start pumping iron on the deck over there. I may have to pummel a few chumps who get ideas about Lexi. Moon's husband, Randall, and their twins got here the night before Mom and my sister. The second they pulled into Gecko's Gulch, Skitters decided to take our relationship to the previous level, not having one. Skitters was back with the twins before he finished breakfast. He's usually an overachiever when it comes to food, so this really stung. Thanks, pal. I guess all those burgers at Holy Cow didn't mean a thing. I kinda felt bad about it. Dad must have wanted to suck up to me a little because he said I could get another cat. I've decided on a Maine Coon. They've got a badass look and are almost as big as a dog. Kind of like Skitters, without the attitude. Speaking of snarky snits, I guess Randall has changed his tune about Navel. I don't know what all happened, except Randall's California beach boy left him for a younger dude. Well, duh. Who wants to date someone who looks like a 100-year-old version of Pee Wee Herman? Now that he's back, Randall is wagging around Jasper's posse like that nippy dog who lives at Juniper Hollow. Randall took over decorating the space they fenced off for the concert in Central Park. In typical Randall style, he gayed up the place with so much rainbow stuff, it looked like RuPaul upchucked a paint store. Stopping by before my punishment started at the end of Summer Sizzler, I got held up by a security guy the size of Hagrid from Harry Potter. That splooge biscuit Kiefer told the guy who stopped me that I was cool. Are you fucking kidding me? Kiefer Nichols is letting me into my dad's concert. I almost punched him. I could take him, you know. Kiefer is a year older and plays football, but I'm already getting a little definition in my biceps just from the few times I've pumped iron on the deck at Juniper Hollow. Taj was backstage looking like someone just dumped a bucket of ice down his pants. Dude, chill. Taj flipped me the bird, Flutter style. We talked about what a booger bandit Kiefer was for a few minutes, then I had to go. Dad promised not to put Taj on stage until I got back. That would be at 9 o'clock when the Nimrods of Navel wrapped up their stupid pool party. Anyone who has ever been to Rectal Fest knows these aren't quiet events. Their sound techs pound the pegs at 85 decibels or higher. Tonight was no exception. The Rectals kicked things off with Clean Up Your Coco Canyon. If you haven't heard it, it's a song about prepping for a colonoscopy. Dad and the band had reworked their normal concert routine, getting rid of all the songs that might be considered offensive, which was pretty much all of them. Since they were doctors used to going through the back door on people, there were some colon cancer songs and a few warnings about the dangers of obesity in tunes like Mud Flap Boogie. The rest of the stuff was filler from other bands and songs Gaseous Iglesias and Slick Von Schlop wrote for their kids. Dad never wrote any songs for us. Both the concert and the end of Summer Sizzler were free. It didn't take long for all the luggers at the pool to wander over to the show, mostly because you couldn't hear yourself talk. I had to pull people into the guard shack to get quotes. The photos were going to say all that needed to be said about this event. Only a handful of hardcore homo haters stuck around. Everyone else was next door slurping on rainbow snow cones and cotton candy. This didn't mean everyone suddenly jumped aboard the homo handcart. You just couldn't hear anything at the pool and the food was better at the concert. I stayed until 9 o'clock in case my editor swung by. By then, it was just the lifeguards, already cleaning up. Danica wasn't one of them. I hadn't seen her all night. Figures. Taj was jumping up and down and doing some kind of ooga booga chant with Jasper Stratton when I finally got backstage. Wow, that got friendly fast. Randall must have made the rounds earlier, because Taj's hair was shellacked into a Middle Eastern Billy Idol. One of the roadies signaled to Dad on stage. The Rectals were wrapping up Guarantee Ya Diarrhea, a song from Cavity Search about how bad fast food is for you. It's true. Once, when I had surgery and couldn't poop, Dad took me to this nasty-ass burger joint in Vegas. I almost shit my pants on the ride home.
Chorizo, tortilla, cheesy, pizzeria. Oh yeah, guarantee ya. Boozing, diarrhea, still beats gonorrhea. Ladies and gentlemen, good people of Naval, let this serve as a reminder that inflammatory bowel disease is more than just irritating. Let's all join the movement for healthy bowels. On the subject of health, you know what's not healthy? Hate, fear, and intolerance. As a doctor, I can tell you that hatred wreaks havoc on the nervous system, lowers the body's immunity to infections, and hijacks the endocrine system. Not to mention, it can also cause chronic constipation. I've always thought of the people of Naval as kind and loving, the sort of folks who follow the word of their church and love thy neighbor. Sadly, there are a few people who literally need to pull their heads out of their butts. I'm asking each of you to look in your heart and find the respect that you know every person deserves. If you can't do that, then please leave. I'll wait.
The whole place fell silent. Dad let a couple of supremely uncomfortable minutes pass. Only a couple of snot slurpers left. I'm sure there were still a few homophobes taking up space, but no one wanted to miss Taj's coming out announcement.
Please welcome to the stage, Taj Wakefield.
T-A-J, yeah, that's me. In Central Park, that's the place to be. I'm saying hey to all the ladies and mister, sweating balls at this summer sizzler. True to it, oh yes, I know who I am. I might be a kid, but I know I'm the man. I'm no magician, but I can't be fake. I saw all my dogs turn into snakes. Lost all my friends cause of the way I sway. I lost my job cause of the game I play. Might break the world with what I'm about to say. But hello world, 2 words, I'm gay.
What happened next was epic. Instead of dropping the mic like that chonker Kanye West, Taj hurled it out into the audience as far as he could throw, which wasn't that far. Taj really needs to start pumping iron at Juniper Hollow instead of priming his pump in the bathroom. The mic sailed over the heads of the audience in slow motion. I could almost feel my dad having a heart attack, worrying about what might happen to his mic. Fortunately, Nolan Ryan, the little leaguer Dad hired to catch it, was right on the mark.
You're out!
By now, the Rectals were back on stage and ready to rock.
Who else is out? Join us on stage.
Randall was the first one to prance out. No surprises here. Moon was right behind him, along with the twins and Lexi, all decked out in goofy gay gear. Hoping others would join, Dad had 2 sets of steps connected to both sides of the stage. Jasper was the first one up. I might have imagined this, but I thought I heard the entire crowd suck in their breath. The Rectals were playing I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross, so it was hard to tell. It wasn't until the Rectals segued into YMCA that the real closeters finally came clean. It started with Norton Melbourne, the squirrely dude who owns the flower shop. Then an orderly and a couple of nurses from the hospital went on stage, looking like they were expecting the Gestapo to show up and arrest them at any second. A few more randoms wandered up the steps, followed by a bunch of little kids who just wanted to dance around with the band. By then, Mom was on stage too, never one to miss a chance to do the most cringy thing she could think of. I thought about leaving, burned out from the night and hoping to knock back a few shots before Dad got home. Wait, what? Was that the editor of the Naval Weekly banner up there? Holy buckets, I did not see that coming. The rectals played until almost 10 o'clock. Pretty much an all-nighter in this town. No one bothered to save me any food, even though they started out with about 1 million cupcakes. Taj was starving, of course, so he headed straight for the kitchen when we finally got back to Legacy Grove. Mom, Randall, Moon, the twins, and Lexi were there just waiting for Taj to feed them. It's kinda pathetic how everyone treats Taj like a free fry cook. At least they don't care if he's gay. I was kicking back with a Rowdy's Righteous Root Beer waiting for waffles. We've got 2 machines, but it still takes forever. Taj cooked up a bunch of bacon and sausage, so the whole kitchen was smoky and smelled like fresh pig. Something caught my eye, but I couldn't tell what it was. I looked around and didn't see anything at first except a bunch of people crowded into the kitchen drinking orange juice and root beer, including Danica. She showed up right after I left to cover the end of summer snoozer. What with Mom and Danica in the room, all we needed to make this a perfect evening was for Kiefer to put in an appearance. I made a mental note to warn Kiefer to keep his grubby mitts off Danica. I won't need to threaten, just tell Kiefer how it is. I like that about our relationship now. To underscore this point, I was getting ready to say something shitty about Kiefer to Taj and Danica when I smelled it. The fated fart in a packed elevator. Only, I didn't think anyone had thrown a butt bomb. No human being is capable of serving up that kind of swamp sundae. Taj stopped cooking for a second and wrinkled his nose. Dad asked, who invited Hootie and the Blowfish? When it comes to the old one-cheek squeak, Rudy is usually to blame. Only thing was, Rudy was fast asleep in his room. The baby monitor was on the kitchen counter showing Rudy all curled up in his crib. Even if he'd been in the room with us, it wouldn't explain the breeze. It stirred up the sphincter fog, making the kitchen reek to the point where I wouldn't eat anything if I just crawled across the Sahara Desert. I finally get what Dad means when he says something doesn't pass the smell test. The kitchen wasn't just stinky. It was suddenly cold, even though almost a dozen people were crowded around the table and breakfast bar. This was the same thing that happened in the Oasis, only then I didn't notice how cold it had gotten. It wasn't until later, when Taj said his wee-wee was tucked into his sternum, that I remembered how frigid it was. I'm thinking it's Blue McKenna. Just because Kiefer's dad hadn't murdered her doesn't mean someone else didn't do the honors. Skitters could see whatever it was. I could tell by the way he arched his back and jumped sideways for the entire length of the house. Not an easy thing for a cat who's clinically obese. I've already got my new kitten picked out, so Skitters is welcome to eat himself into a coma if he wants. I found my new pet online at a cattery in Las Vegas. Did you know there's more than one kind of cat house there? I sure didn't. Costs about the same, I would imagine, though I've never needed to pay for sex. Or a cat. The Maine Coon is my birthday present. It isn't for another month, which is about the time I'll get to take Eleanor Snodgrass home. She's super cool with long hair and this Lord of the Rings kind of face. The people I'm getting her from are so paranoid about protecting their business, they won't let me take Eleanor home until she's been spayed. You'd think for $3,000 they'd let me pick her up tomorrow. My dad had a seizure when he heard how much she cost. Too bad, Dad. Maybe if you hadn't checked out for the last 9 months, things would be different. In the meantime, Skitters was going full loco. Everyone was laughing, but I knew what was buzzing his beehive. Taj did too. We talked about it later over microwaved Hot Pockets in the shed where I sleep. I wasn't about to eat those fumigated waffles or even a strip of bacon. The question was, what was that thing in the kitchen trying to do besides launch a massive odor assault?
Whether you're going on a trip or just tripping, Quirky Cannabis Country is the perfect audiobook to take on your next adventure. Find out what happens when a group of extreme kooks gathers to participate in a reality TV show near an oasis of kick-ass cannabis. Quirky Cannabis Country by Adele Park. Get it today on audible.com.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.